Hey everyone, my name's Cell, and in this video we're going to be looking at how to beat melee cleaves, or at least improve against them. We're going to be looking over my own gameplay and analyzing it and seeing what I do well and what I do wrong against these melee cleaves and what I could have done to perhaps had an easier outcome in some of these games to win or actually won these games. I'm going to have 3 wins and a loss. We're going to be looking at a game versus a Turbo, versus a DH Ret Arsham, versus a DH Unholy DK Mistweaver, and versus a DH War Holy Priest. So let's get right into these games and start picking apart what I can do better. Alright guys, so our first video today is going to be against a Turbo with a Mistweaver. So this team is pretty easy, so starting out easy. It's really just whether you enable them to disrupt you or not here. You have to get really good CC chains against good teams here, because they have a bunch of stuff to peel you, but the only way they can really get out of it is if they trinket or the monk ways. They don't really have like a bear form to kind of like disrupt your go beforehand. They don't really have like coil every 30 seconds. The warrior can stun and disarm you, but if you're getting cheaps on him, it really doesn't matter unless he trinkets, and that's only every 2 minutes. So he has the option to disrupt you every 2 minutes, but if you're getting cross CC on him, which most of the time is preferable, but obviously sometimes you either can't, or you don't have time, or you just don't want to because you have to do massive damage or something, or you're just not gonna you don't feel like you're gonna force anything. There's some situations where maybe you don't want to CC the warrior, but a lot of the times you just want to get cross CC on him. And like the mage gets a root on him. You don't always have to cheap. The mage can get a root on him if he's not right next to the shaman. And his shaman's the kill target here. And the Mistweaver can become the kill target if he does not have way, does not have trinket. If he's not running way, you can kill him really easy. But most of the time the Mistweaver will be running way. And sometimes it's good to swap on him. Sometimes it's just, even if he doesn't have either of them, it's better to just go for the scripted go and CC everything, because you don't want shaman to come over and like lock your mage on an Eben, or you don't want the warrior to come over and peel because they're not in CC. Anyway, let's get this game started. That's the general overview of what's going to be happening here.
Like this map.
Gotta turn this down. All right.
I'm ready. You ready?
As ready as I can be.
So I want to point out something good to do here. So your mage can know where you're setting up from, is to sap the kill target. So the kill target is now in place, and the mage can kind of get his position ready. Obviously, healer and the warrior are still running around, but you sap the kill target so we know where we're ending up after we're getting the CC chain, so he can kind of get that in his head. I feel like that helps mages a lot. I know when I play my mage, which is to a decent extent, it helps me a lot when my rogues do that. So sap the kill target. It's not a requirement. If it's not possible, like there's a DK just with like Remorseless Winner or something just running around, and you feel like you're to be caught out. There's no point to sapping him. It's just a little helpful. So I sap the enhance and I swap it to the Mistweaver. I'm going to cheap the warrior, or I should cheap the warrior, but he's in Bladestorm, so I might cheap him after the Bladestorm. I forget if I do. I should cheap him after the Bladestorm, and I'm gonna kidney enhance right here.
Healer? Full kidney this guy. Hopping burst, I guess.
Trying to Got it.
You feared me?
No,
It's all you? I don't
the warrior ran too far away for me to cheap him, but we did force a lot of stuff. We forced wall here. We got re-sheep off of this, and we got a fear out of the warrior. And I saved my trinket here because I'm used to playing Belf, and I have to save my trinket versus Turbo, or they can swap and one-shot me. So, but since I'm human, I probably could have trinketed here and got something else out of them. Maybe a bubble, maybe more defensives like a disarm, so they don't have it on the next go. But I probably could have trinketed, gotten something, and then not got punished for it like I would on my Belf. If we get a poly out of this, then it probably would have been worth it to trinket right here. No, we got an MC, but it gets interrupted, I believe.
Nice.
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 Yeah, it gets interrupted. So probably was good I saved my trinket there, actually.
It's okay. It's okay. We got wall. We got wall. Killing with mine.
Just stun,
Okay.
okay? Just run.
I'm gonna cheap. I'm gonna cheap. I'm gonna cheap this. I cheap this. I cheaped it.
So if you see them pop burst, it's always a really good idea to try and, like, if they're not on stun DR and you're not about to go in, it's a good idea to stun them off of your mage and then just peel back for a little bit and then go the next time everyone's off stun and poly DR. I was trying to stun the warrior here before he could connect to my mage, but unfortunately he charged and my mage just flopped. So good thing he blocked here. There's a chance he might have been able to be greedy and save block, but it was probably just a good call to block here. Unfortunately, it wasn't able to get that cheap off. But as we see, they popped everything here. They popped Avatar, which I don't know why he's running that. They should be running Rend. He popped Lust, and he popped his shit. Forget the name, but it's 5 seconds of 100% critical strike.
Okay. I'm just slowed here.
Oh my god.
Should we warrior off you?
Okay. And full Kenny healer.
Okay.
Full Kenny healer.
Training. Trying to get their third fear up.
So as we see there, we get a kidney shot on the healer, we get a sheep shot on the enhance, and we actually half sheep the warrior, so he can't peel anything. And my priest said, called out he's running in for fear.
So,
He's so bad. Should be healer now. Should be healer now.
Disarmed. Not.
My mage then calls out that he's able to get the Miss Fever into a sheep. So my priest holds his fear, and he's waiting to fear out of that.
Trinketing this.
Casting Eben.
I'll fear first, okay?
Okay. Big Eben. Maybe he falls.
That's really good communication right there between my mage and my healer. That's something you guys should be pointing out to your team, or if there are any healers or mages watching this, that's something you should be doing, is calling, or really everyone should be calling out their CC. Let's say your mage goes for a free sheep, and he gets it, and then he can't get something out. You as the rogue, or your priest needs to call out who can CC out, or whether neither of you can CC out, and you need to either do a lot of Mongo damage, because for some reason mage has procs and you have all your burst still, or you need to get out of there and reset. So,
Banner. Oh, that's unfortunate. Gonna kill Warbanner now. Killed it.
Okay, run. I can't.
killing Warbanner and like small totems is really a good thing to do against turbo teams, because Warbanner is, for obvious reasons, not good. You don't want your CC to be halved as Frost sub RMP. That's just never going to help you at all. Having the little root totems down on the ground is kind of bad, because if for some reason they move back over here and my mage has to blink in and get slowed, or it procs and roots him, it could screw everything up. And you want to, as your job as the rogue in this comp, is to kill all of these lightning surge totems if you're next to them. I see my healer's in a paralysis over here, so I step and kill this grounding totem, which was good and dropped a lot of pressure from the other team.
Got that.
Buddy.
Thank you. Nice.
I'm gonna sheep. Maybe warrior reflects it.
Okay.
Okay.
I stopped the hex.
Okay.
Also, be wary as RMP that you don't have any hex dispels, so it's really good to kick hexes. Now, there's sometimes you have to prioritize what to kick. The priest can death or prem, whatever you want to call it, the hex, but I'm not sure if he's actually running it here. But my mage kicks the hex, so be watching out for those.
Healer off DR, or is mind control lying to me?
Mind control is there. Mind control is there. Got a blind healer though. Blind healer.
So we set up with blind here. The healer can't get out of it, so I can easily sap, or we can poly off this. Should cheap the warrior here, not sure if I do, and then we go for a kidney kill on the enhance right here. So just a normal scripted go.
Going.
Really good.
Okay, good. I'll put damage.
I can sap. I can sap.
Okay. I'm stunned.
Yeah,
Are
free
you
sheep.
okay?
Yeah, sure.
Yes. Don't worry about this, Travis. I'll help you.
I'll fear.
So the enhance kind of freaks out, not knowing what to do, because he jumped off the cliff trying to LOS my mage, which is a good idea, but his healer is now up there in a full CC chain. The warrior has jumped off. I don't know. He has his kick according to my bar down here, so he jumped off, doesn't stop any CC from our mage, which he should have been doing. and we just get like a free kill as the shaman just stands here. I was kind of confused. He definitely wasn't AFK. I guess they didn't feel like they had anything left. So kind of weird end to the game, but good setup by us. I did sheep the warrior. We got a sheep on the Mistweaver, I think 2 of them, and we got a sap. And we had bomb down here just in case Mistweaver got out of those, so he couldn't do anything. Not like he had bubble that was already down. So good game on our part. Other team probably could have played it better. I think Warrior could have done a couple things, but that's the typical kind of setup against a melee cleave. I believe RMP should beat a turbo almost every time. The only turbo that should give you any difficulty would be an R Druid turbo. Mistweaver turbos are not that hard. All right, guys, here's our next game. It's going to be against a Ret, Havoc, and Arsham. Now here they are running the Spirit Link talent, and if you don't know what that is, basically what it does is it replaces their normal Spirit Link, the little totem you see on the ground that has a range, and it gives them a Spirit Link that they can spam, and it lasts 20 seconds, and it's just a little buff that they put on themselves, and anyone within, I believe, 15 yards of them, they all share health. It does not break CC, or at least polys. I don't know if it breaks traps. I wouldn't think it does, but so it won't break our CC. But in the CC, they will still be sharing HP. So if they're within 15 yards, so this is really hard for RMP to deal with. It's not as hard if it's double melee, but it's still hard, especially how this team plays it. They just train our healer, and they have both the classes that can really run at them. The other class maybe be, I don't know, a DK if they really want to be Mongo, but I think these classes are probably the best because Red has a bunch of immunities and DH obviously has tons and tons of mobility. So the harder version of this, though, would be a Ret with a Destro lock. For Frostab RMP, it's just super, super hard to play against and counterplay. I want to throw this in there. We lose this game, unfortunately. They run at our healer, and he dies, and they're on triple stun DR, and they use almost everything to keep themselves immune. So it's unfortunate, but I wanted to throw this in there to tell you guys how we should have played it, what should have happened, and what we could have done to possibly outplay them, and just to give you guys a guide on how to deal with this if you run into this while playing. So I'm going to go ahead and start the video.
Wanna win?
8 points.
Just get
There
it.
you go. You have to go.
He's relentless. Oh,
Sap healer, sap healer. Oh, okay. It's okay.
So typically what we do is we run in and sap the healer. And what this does is allows us... this is when we see the Spirit Link, by the way. We don't do this every game. It's just the Spirit Link games when I see that buff pop up, and I specifically have it right here as a weak aura because it's just so important to see that like right when it pops up. So I have it right in the middle of my screen because I'm stupid. And so I run out and I get the sap, and unfortunately my my mage polys on top of it. But it's not a humongous deal. What we're trying to do here is time this out so we can one-shot the healer and hopefully just get through this game as fast as possible because it's horrible. So we sap the healer, try and time this out. I will sap again, and then I'll actually blind him. Before we've done anything, I will blind him. If the Ret is smart, the Ret will bop it off. But at least we get a bop out of the way. But if the Ret does not bop, or we see the Ret during bop, or when he has the potential to bop, his thing will go down to like 2 seconds or something after the blind, and then we just kidney and we murder him. He goes straight to 0.
I'm gonna sap him again after this, and then I'm gonna blind him.
yeah, really good.
Gonna kidney him out of this.
Ret gets the bop off at the very last second, so this guy is able to refresh, which is unfortunate.
He bopped it, he bopped it, he bopped it.
He's still
We still try going him though, see what we can do, but they're in range, so
yeah, just restun and he can fall over. I have no peels for you for like 3 seconds.
Hitting red at the moment, hitting red, hitting red.
So after we've done everything on the healer and we get Ascendance, he's on full stun DR, we could possibly get a poly on him, but the orb just ended, I believe. So we swap to the Ret, and we're going to try and get a poly on healer.
I am blind healer. Oh no, I can't. I used it already. Used it already. But can you sheep healer maybe?
Trying, buddy.
Taking the room.
So until now, hasn't been able to get a sheep just due to all the line of sights on this map right here. We have the corner right here, the corner right here. It's, just a narrow exit. So healer runs in. I'm going to cheap everything, and we're going to try and get a go here.
I'm a stun healer. Get a stun healer. Stun red.
I think go.
Okay.
Go in healer. We gotta go right. He's doing the thing. I'm shooting
You couldn't see it there, but the cheap shot on the healer was under his kick.
red, dude. He's doing less damage. I can't.
There's no way I can get that. There's no way I can get that.
So we don't get the poly there. Unfortunately, that would have given us more pressure. But the Ret pops his bubble to stay offensive onto our healer, and the DH goes meta, and he's on 1/4 stun DR now.
Yeah, just get out of here. There's ring for mitigation. Oh my god.
So what I believe we could do there is move to a possible better position where they're not just all clumped up in one room and we're all being cleaved down. Because even if they hadn't killed our healer Bjork there, they could have swapped to us, and especially Sushi, and just annihilated him. We did get the Ret's bubble, so if we lived that, we would have gone on a lot longer. I think what we could have done on the opener is me go and sap. I didn't know my mage was going to be able to get the poly on the healer. I should have sapped the Ret, and then we could have feared out of the sap or gotten a poly out of the sap or something. So then we could have gotten a better setup on the healer. But this game is just really tough. You have to play it by ear, really. The main goal here, especially against the Destro Ret team that I referred to earlier, is to poly healer when he has the buff kind of low. Like, you want to start polying at preferably 10 seconds, but if he starts refreshing it because he knows what's going on, do it at 12, 14 seconds. Make him really, really, really want to use the spirit linked buff as much as you possibly can, because that drains his mana. Like, look, this guy has half mana and our healer has 3/4 mana, so we can actually win this mana war and win purely that way. He will not be able to use this anymore, and then we just flat out win. So that's the main goal of this game, just to drain him on mana. But if you get him to where he doesn't have this buff on, by you just poly, you can kidney him out and get a fear on the DPS, and then just go to town on the Arsham and force everything or kill him. He's relentless, and this guy's actually a Tauren. So anyway, that's how you kind of deal with that game. I'm sorry it's not a win, and I can't show you the best example. I didn't really feel like the example before this was good because we just went in and one-shot the Shaman. So it's not really much to see. It's just sap, kidney go. Or blind, sap, kidney, blind go. Or, yeah. So, next video. Alright guys, in this next clip, we're going to be going up against a Havoc DH, Mistweaver Monk, and Unholy DK. Now, quick note about Unholy DKs is you don't really want to go them if you don't have to, such as if they're playing with a squishy class on their team, such as like a, in this case, Havoc Demon Hunter, or a Windwalker Monk. Possibly if the Windwalker Monk's being really aggressive, then you can go on him. A lot of the time you want to go on the Unholy DK in that situation, but you can't go on the Windwalker Monk if they're being aggressive. If they're playing with like an Arms Warrior, you really want to be on the Unholy DK. The reason you don't really want to be on the Unholy DK, if possible though, is because Unholy DK has a lot of very small defensives that they can use for themselves to keep themselves alive, or just barely alive, maybe 10-20% HP while their healer CC'd, just for the healer to make it out of CC just barely, in order to top them off with, like in this case, like a bubble or a spirit link or something along those lines. They just have a bunch of those little cooldowns that they can rotate within themselves, such as like Corpse Shield, IBF, AMZ. They just have a bunch of different cooldowns they can use, rather than a Frost DK who doesn't really have much utility besides the IBF and the AMZ. Anyway, we're going to be getting into this game and go ahead and play it. What I'm doing right now is I'm going around this right pillar. Gotta go ahead and play it. In order so that the DH can't run in with his eyesight that we can see used right here, and he can't beeline in and get me out before my mage and my healer can hit him to get that off. So I line him, and I'm going around this way. I'm going to kidney the healer.
See if I can sap this one. No, I can't.
I try and get a zap off, but as we can see, he's in combat right here. I like my combat add-on. Excuse me. Anyway, gonna go over here and kidney the healer because I can't sap him.
As ready as I can be, brother.
Okay.
And then because we're playing against an Unholy DK, I know his pet can stun. He's rooted right here, I believe, or about to. As we can see, it's forming on the bottom, I believe. Yeah, he gets rooted, and I'm going to stun the pet just in case. So he cannot stun my mage on the polymorph. And then I should stun the DK off, but I do not. And then I stun the Havoc Demon Hunter. The Mistweaver Monk uses Way to get out of my my stun, so my healer so my mage can't get the poly off. He runs straight into the orb, so that he's being damaged. So if my mage does land the poly, he's on DR, and it breaks immediately.
I got gripped in the sun.
Got out of whatever you did to him really fast. Oh,
Mage didn't understand the way went off right there. He wasn't paying attention. He finds out a second after.
I silenced healer.
There we go. Mage gets a really good silence off. Because we get the silence off, we're able to keep the pressure up, and it's going to force the Demon Hunter's blur, which is really good for us. Now, something I'm going to do here, which is really good against Mistweaver Monks, is if you can start a CC chain against him, whether with a kick or just with a blind itself, or just a random poly over the way, it's really good to get a CC over the way so that the healer can't run in and do damage with his DPS and heal them to keep him alive. So it's effectively, if you're able to CC him, wasting that entire cooldown. So I'm going to blind him here right as the right as the orb ends, and around maybe 2 seconds left, I believe, on the CS to waste as much of this way as possible and keep offensive on the Havoc Demon Hunter. I'm going to pop another dance here, but I'm not going to pop my my blades. I might at the very end here, but I'm not going to pop my my shadow blades here because it's too big of a cooldown to invest into this go, because DH is already on 1/4 stun DR after the stun ends in 0.9 seconds, and my mage already used Veins, and just next go we're going to win either way if we get a setup, because we get blur right here. So
Yeah, I'm gonna blind him out. I'm gonna blind him out.
so I blind right as this ends.
Blinding him now.
I should cheat the DH here, or the DK here, but I don't. We get AMZ as well, by the way, so I really don't want to pop my blades into this, but we also get blur. I'm going to pop my dance here because it's a smaller cooldown, and cheap shot the DH so I can hit him easier on the 1/4 stun DR.
I'll try to sap out, okay? Me.
My mage calls, he says sap, but he means poly. I should sap out of this, but since he calls poly, I'm going to let him poly.
Okay, I'm done. Okay.
Now, something I want to point out here is my mage used Flurry, and I don't know if the DH did this on purpose or just kind of like a last resort to see if he can live, but he uses his his demon form to jump up in the air, and when he's jumping in the air, he's not only immune to CC, but he's immune to all damage. So that's a little thing to just keep in track when you're facing a demon hunter, that they can do that and they can outplay you in that way. So be very careful about that. Healer is coming out of CC, literally 0.1 seconds right here. DH almost lived at 2%, would have been able to possibly... the healer has bubble up, because it's not down here. I have that tracked. So this guy's at 2%. This is at 0.1 seconds. He possibly could have lived, but he doesn't. He doesn't.
Oh, thank you.
So good game on our part. I think they could have done a little better, but anyway, I really wanted to show you guys that game to show you how how good it is to blind or poly over a Way of the Crane if it's possible, to kind of put them even more on the back foot. Anyway, we're going to be moving on to the next game now. Alright guys, so we have a game here against a
Their belt.
DH, Arms Warrior, and Holy Priest. So the hardest variation for us against this comp is again our Druid, because they have so many different ways to stop CC, and then on top of that they have bear form, and the Ardruid can just sit bear form while these guys cause pressure on us, and we don't have consistent pressure. So against Ardruid teams, you really have to take I believe Dark Arc and try and go on the Ardruid, or if you happen to get CC on the Ardruid, you can go on the DH and go back and forth. If the Warrior trinkets, he can become a kill target too, especially if he's out of battle stance. And all these guys are Belf. I'm about to call that out, which is good to call out if there are quote-unquote weak races on the other team that you can possibly kill. So anyway, these guys are all Belf, so it makes it easier on us, and they have a Holy Priest, which really isn't that hard for RMP. The only annoying thing would be Fade. Holy Ward really isn't that annoying unless he uses it really well. I haven't encountered a Holy Priest that really uses it like when he sees a CC incoming. Normally they just kind of put it up just to make it so it's a little harder for RMP to get a setup, but I literally just run over most of the time, and if my mage can't spell steal it, or my priest can't purge it, I will run over, pop a Shadow Dance, cheap shot it off of them, and then I'll use a kidney on them. Have to be careful. Sometimes Holy Priest will react really fast, and they will see you cheap shot it off, and then they'll immediately fade your kidney. So depending on the Holy Priest, you have to you just have to feel it out throughout the game. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and start this game.
They're all Belf. Alright, I'm a full kidney healer. Ready?
You have to be weary of or wary, sorry, not weary, wary of kidney healers on the start, because this guy could have been holding Holy Ward to press right before I kidneyed, just like expecting it, like how some disc priests, like when it's RMP versus RMP, will try and death sap on the opener. So this is kind of like the same mentality. So be wary of that, but this guy doesn't do it here. All right, I want to point out immediately something my mage did wrong here is right when he saw one of my cheap shots on the DPS, he put orb down. He needs to really watch for CC on our kill target, which is the DH here, and wait to see him in any kind of CC to put his orb down, because this guy is unfortunately not in our orb. It doesn't mess our go up really. I mean, he might have died on the opener, but we really want that orb over here. It's very bad if he gets out of the orb. So if he trinkets and gets out, that's fine. We traded a cooldown at least. It's a 2-minute cooldown for a 1-minute cooldown. But this is just bad. We shouldn't have happened. We do get a poly out of this, so that is really good. That's what we want. This guy was in CC into a root over here, and we got a poly out of the kidney over there, and this guy is at 45% HP and a cheap shot, and I can cheap shot him again. Warrior comes over here and fears. This guy trinkets. I bomb, unfortunately, because I thought we might get an early kill. I thought the Holy Priest was going to trinket right there rather than the Demon Hunter on the poly, because it was obvious he was going to die. But the Demon Hunter trinketed and used his immune. So didn't know that he had the immune, but he does. So we got that out of the way. That's I believe a 1-minute cooldown, and the trinket, which is a 2-minute cooldown. And the priest is still in 5 seconds of the poly. I'm going to fear, though. I believe I'm going to trinket this and then go and try and get something out of the immune over there.
Oh fuck! I didn't think he was gonna. Oh well. I can sap off this.
Sapping off polys is always good, especially if you don't think your mage is going to get it. My mage was not calling out that he was going to get a poly, so I just assumed he was not going for it. And looking over here, you can see his belf, so he wasn't able to do it. It'd be great if he called out that he couldn't poly there, but sometimes he just thinking about other things, and we're not rank 1s. So, but always good to try and improve. So we force the trinket out of the Holy Priest there, and we force Guardian. So the Guardian instantly procs here, I believe.
Okay, we got shit.
Yeah, I believe that's how he lived. Yeah, the Guardian instantly procs, and he goes back up to 50% HP. This is our time to really be peeling back. I believe we peel back this way, kind of get far away. We don't really want to stay clump versus this team, because the Havoc Demon Hunter can get a triple stun, and they can cleave all of us down really fast. The Warrior pops his burst, and I believe they're going to start to try and go to town on us.
Yeah, steal the thing off heal.
This is a double stun. Luckily, it's not a triple, but I really shouldn't have been stacking on our mage, or the mage shouldn't have been stacking on me, one of the two.
Steal the thing off healer. I have no trinket. Okay.
See how much cleave they did? Our mage is being healed, so that's why he stayed up. But I wasn't even the main target. They're targeting my mage, as you can see right here, and I just dropped.
Evasion.
So unfortunately, that forced my vanish and evasion right there.
Evasion.
Should not have happened.
No bomb. I'm gonna.
So what would have been really good right here is if I think I broke that that CC on the DH over here. He might have gotten dispelled, but I believe it broke. And no, actually he did get dispelled. That's right here. My bad. Anyway, but you don't want to break that, because if you have a DH and a poly, what you can then do is that allows for an easier setup. So the DH can't move and kite around. So I can go over here and get a kidney shot on the healer, and then we can get poly out of that, and then I switch and double cheap them, and the DH isn't flying around the entire map trying to kite me. So that can be a really good tip to use in the future.
Kidney healer. I'm good at kidney healer.
Now, obviously, I know because I have these two things right here. I fixed that now, so I don't have two of them. That was a glitch. But I obviously see that the Holy Ward is up. My priest calls Holy Ward just to make sure that I know, which I am not saying that's bad at all. You should definitely do that. That's actually why I was pointing it out. You really want to call if you see this, just so your partners know. I know sometimes Sushi won't see it, and he thinks he's going for a free sheep, and he just gets the Holy Ward off, and he's confused. So anyway, my priest calls it out. I go over here, and I pop a Shadow Dance. I cheap shot this guy into a kidney for a setup.
Yeah, I see. Full kidney.
My mage had a really good root over here, so neither of them can move. I should have cheap shotted this warrior faster. I do cheap shot him, but it's after 2 seconds or something, which is bad. He couldn't have feared, but he could have disarmed, or I think disarm's his only option right now because he didn't have stun, but he could have disarmed me.
Getting there for sheets. Fears.
All you did stems for me.
And the DH falls over. So typically that matchup is harder. We played really well there. We got a bunch of CC. I messed up one time by stacking, but the they didn't really make any outplays happen. The H priest never faded anything. I don't think he pressed it that game. He didn't have the opportunity. He could have tried to pre-fade more. Would have gotten more use than just not using it. The warrior could have done a couple more peels. Like let me see if I can rewind a little bit. It's too far. Right here, he fears me. I'm going to trinket. He could have disarmed me or stunned me off of that. But he doesn't. So typically that's what teams are going to do. And it happens. It's fine. Just got to have more CC on that warrior. Possibly a fear or something. Even though the warrior does have something to get out of the fear, if I'm going to step this demon hunter over here. If we get a fear for half a second and he's not able to disarm me, that's perfectly fine. Alright guys, that's it for today. I hope the video was helpful, gave you some information that maybe you didn't know, and that you're able to maybe possibly outplay teams that you weren't able to outplay before by thinking about what I talked about here today. If you liked the video, leave a comment below and let me know what I can do to improve my videos or do something to make it better for you guys. Would love to hear any and all feedback. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.